Hello, and welcome to today's presentation titled Arming with Intelligence, Data Fusion in Tomorrow's Network-Centric Warfare, sponsored by Objectivity. Before we begin, I would like to explain how to participate in today's presentation. First of all, if you have any technical difficulties during today's session, please press the Help button on your player console to receive assistance in solving common issues. This presentation console has been optimized for viewing at a screen resolution of 10.
Finally, there's also going to be a brief survey at the end of the webinar, and we just ask you to take a moment to let us know how we're doing and what you think of the webinar. Okay, I think that about covers it, and so now let me introduce our very first speaker. We are so excited to be hosting Fred Stein from the MITRE Corporation. As technology continues to evolve, Fred remains on the cutting edge of his profession as he continues to seek out innovative and new concepts. He is a retired colonel of the United States Army and is now MITRE's Senior Principal Engineer for Network-Centric Warfare. Among Fred's many accomplishments is the book Network-Centric Warfare, which he co-authored with two colleagues, David Alberts and John Gertzke. He also serves as a member of the Swedish National Advisory Board on Network-Based Defense, an advisor. He's also an advisor to the Department of Defense Office of Force Transformation, and he's also an assistant professor of information warfare and network-centric warfare at the Army War College. He's also a proud recipient of the Arthur K. Zebrowski Award. So welcome, Fred.
Kimberly, welcome. And I have to advise everybody that this is the first webinar I've ever given. The last time I gave this kind of presentation was a week ago in front of 1,300 people at the first cyber conference for the Air Force. And it'll be exciting to hear your comments or read your comments and go through it. Without further ado, I think the first thing we all ought to think about is, are we in fact in a new era? Are we in fact entering the information age? And I think for folks that are working through this right now, the answer to that is absolutely yes. The characteristic of the new age is that it is inhabited by people who were born before 1985 and those born after 85. And your current speaker, I am sad to say, was born significantly before 1985. And as you will see later in a test, considers himself a digital immigrant moving toward digital fossil status. So these changes and innovations in society, economics, business, social, and the military are far-reaching, penetrating, and I think extraordinarily interesting for our period. So the key of any military officer, and I have been one for my whole life virtually, because my father was military and I grew up in the military and retired from the military and now work in a military post, is preparing for the next war, not the last one. The picture on your left is a picture of the American Civil War. The picture on your right is a science fiction version of what may be the next one. And warfare here means whether it's kinetic and blowing things up, or whether it's cyber, or whether it's changing hearts and minds of people and making movements toward freedom, democracy, etc. So warfare is a generalized term. So what do I mean when I say a digital native is born in 1985? This slide, and I don't know how it comes out on full screen and looking for you, but this slide sort of gives some feeling of what happens to you if you were born in 1985, or nieces or nephews or sons or daughters who were born in 1985. And I think what's extraordinary about it is the pace of change, that the folks born in that era were raised connected, were raised with the expectation of being able to reach out and touch friends on Facebook, were raised in an expectation of not going to the Encyclopedia Britannica or a library, but going to the Internet. And note, by the way, that I don't give any of this whether it's good or bad, it merely is. And I think that's important during this future discussion, is the expectation of these digital natives, for they, in a military sense, fight the war at the front lines. They, in a commercial sense, sell the product on the front line. And the others, the digital immigrants, fossils, or naturalized citizens, often make the decision of what systems to buy, what research to conduct, how much money to spend, what to put on the marketplace. And if we have a disconnect between these two groups of people, as I sometimes feel we do, we have a significant issue. The next slide is a comic strip, and from Doonesbury, one of my favorite comic strips, or excuse me, not Doonesbury, the Pajama Diaries. And I'll skip to the final frame of that one. I'll let you read it later. But basically, the father who has gotten a new cell phone says, "Are you happy now?" And he says, "Sure. Everybody's made a change to the cell phone. I have it working, and I now am at the bottom of the technological food chain." I certainly feel that way often. I think some of the audience feel that way. The question then is, how do we characterize this new generation, and how do we allow for innovation, be it data sharing, be it security, or be it social changes that are upon us? Defense transformation is occurring. Secretary Rumsfeld, United States Secretary of Defense, former, started it. It continues today. I think it continues in whatever country you're from India to Turkey to Singapore to Poland to Germany to Britain to Japan, and I've spoken in most of those countries. It's a response to this changing strategic environment. How does the world relate to population shifts, to energy shifts, to global politics? How does it react to those environments? And network-centric operations, then, is that emerging military response. Much confusion over that of whether it's a kinetic warfighting response or a social team-building response, and the answer is network-centric operations is equally capable of delivering bombs on target as it is equally capable of delivering the right information to the right people on target, or even medical facilities or medical aid. So it's a relationship between sensors, the people who carry out the mission, and the decision makers. So it's not just about technology, it's about many other areas as well. There are orders of magnitude changes taking place before our eyes. I'm sure this audience is aware of it. The first is the easy one. The first says it's an order of magnitude that more things talk to more things. That's pretty clear. Now, my refrigerator doesn't order beer for me yet, but I think that's coming, and soon I'm sure that'll be the case. Probably more important is the next item, and that is that more people are talking to more people ever before. Now, whether you're a parent and you're concerned whether a child's talking to a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or more ominously, some of you wish they wouldn't talk to, the fact is that peering and connectiveness is taken as an order of expectation by people today, and it's all over. And that impacts organizations. Organizations may appear to be lined up with a hierarchical line diagram, but frankly, the communities of interest that always existed now are able to talk and share data and share information and share videos in a way they never could before. And that causes real stresses in what command and control used to be considered. In fact, some people consider it coordination and cooperation rather than command and control. Sort of interesting. And the other news is if you're uncomfortable with all these changes, that's not good, because they're going to take place in an ever-increasing velocity. The good news is if you don't like today, it will be different tomorrow. The bad news is if you don't like change, you are in real trouble, I think, for today. The impact of all that is that machines connect to machines, what I call connectivity. People talk to people, connectiveness, and connectedness leads to high degrees of collaboration. And they have to collaborate then across many ways and many service-oriented architectures have a place in that, as does data transfers. The next slide, I often kid in the live audience, are the people who greet me on my book tour. They, of course, don't. Nobody greets me on my book tour. But what really happens is the first camera captures the image, but captures it in the wrong format, and it's not networked. It is a camera that I, as a digital fossil, use. The next camera, as you might suspect, captures the image in the right format, but isn't instantly networked. And, of course, you audience knows where I'm going. For the third one is